begin by asking the clerk to call the roll.
Council President Ida.
Here.
Council Pro Tem Posey.
Here.
Councilmember Sweeney. Councilmember Driver.
Here.
Councilmember Murphy.
Present.
Councilmember Middlebrooks.
Here.
Councilmember McClinton.
Here.
With a quorum present, we will proceed. If everyone would please rise for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Councilor Driver.
Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this evening. We thank you for being able to meet here tonight. We thank you for just allowing us that and for watching over our leaders. And I thank you for just giving them wisdom and understanding as they vote on the matters of the city. In the name of your Son, Jesus Christ, amen.
Attention, salute, pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As is our custom, we'd like to invite Mayor Burcato up for some special presentations and recognitions. Mayor?
Good evening. What a privilege it is to have our Beautification Board here tonight, and they have a few presentations that they would like to make. So I would ask Christine Hoffman if she would come up and share with us the good news of the evening.
Good evening. This evening, we are excited to recognize 11 properties for their contribution in making Hoover a beautiful place to live. The Beautification Board received 24 entries from eligible properties, including restaurants, hotels, convenience stores, churches, fire stations, corporate offices, and other businesses. 3 independent judges joined us on June 18th to view and score each property. The judging criteria included basic overall appearance, maintenance, creativity, design, and color coordination. We invited 3 judges with expertise in landscape architecture, landscape design, and horticulture to help us identify the most outstanding beautification accomplishments in our city. We believe that everyone in our community benefits from the civic pride and hard work reflected in these beautiful properties. And tonight, we are honored to show our gratitude by recognizing our 2024 Commercial Beautification Award winners. So I'm going to go ahead and start with our first winner, and I would like to ask you to come up to the front and receive an award from our Mayor Burcato. So our first winner this evening is Birmingham Recovery Center. CEO Colin Harris and landscaper Felipe Vega with Vega Landscaping were responsible for the beautiful building, so thank you. Yes. Thank you very much. Our next winner is Chorus Smart Secure. We have Brian Rice joining us and Drew Christopher. Thank you. Continuing in alphabetical order, we have Chuck's Fish, Sonia Emanuel, and I think, Sonia, you do the landscaping? Is that correct? And your company is...
I build the planters.
Beautiful landscaping, and your company is Rusty Rooster, so... Next up, we have Galleria Woods. Galleria Woods, joining us this evening is Blaine Wakefield, the Director of Plant Operations. Are you, yes. Yeah. And Blake Parker with Landscape Workshop. Beautiful. Thank you. Next up is Grayson Construction. Hopefully John Payne. Oh, green team, perfect. Come on up. Are you Fields Greer? Thank you. It's beautiful there. Yes. Thank you. And our next commercial award, beautification award goes to Hannah Steele. Is Kevin Moran? Thank you. Thank you. Next up is Hoover Fire Station number 8. Captain is Craig Sulcer, and I guess Chief Bentley's here too. And these guys do their own landscaping, so extra impressed that they... Keep up the landscaping, it's beautiful. Our next award goes to Meadowbrook Corporate Park. Joining us this evening should be Alicia Teed and Randy Benton, and hopefully their landscaper, John Richter, and Harold Haynes with Richter Landscaping. Yes, very nice. Okay, next up is Prince of Peace. Prince of Peace received 2 beautification awards this round. They were their Catholic, Prince of Peace Catholic Church and Prince of Peace Catholic School received 2 separate beautification awards. So we'd like to congratulate Prince of Peace, Lori Hill, Ron Espinen, Art and Mary Mueller, and Marie and Joe Harvey. I guess you guys are responsible for the landscape. And last but not least, our final winner is also our overall winner, receiving the highest score from the judges, and that's Stadium Trace Village. Congratulations to Stadium Trace Village. Tonight, we should have joining us Lindsay Robinson. Hopefully they're here. Well, we'll bring it to them, but they were our overall winner, so we appreciate their hard work. So on behalf of the City of Hoover and the Beautification Board, we'd like to thank all of you for working so hard to make Hoover such a beautiful place to live. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate all that group does for us in so many ways. Thank y'all again, ladies. We really do appreciate you. Now we come to the part where we recognize our 30-year employees, and boy, we're getting a lot of those. So Jeremy Davis, Jeremy, come on down. Where's there? Jeremy, come on back down. Jeremy, just if you would stand up front there, we'd appreciate it so we can talk about it.
Cause me trouble.
Yeah. So, you know, when we look at these, resumes and bios and just kind of talk about our folks that have been here 30 years. The ones that are most impressive to me is when they start out as a page in the youth department, still in college, and 30 years later, just the magnificent work that Jeremy has done for our library, and what a wonderful library that we have. But again, he started in 1994 while he was still in college, promoted to a part-time library assistant in 1995. In 2000, he was promoted, got a full-time job, and joined the circulation staff, where he worked for the next 10 years in the circulation staff. Then he joined the children's staff in 2010 as a library specialist, and in 2013, promoted to librarian. In all of his roles, he's demonstrated just an incredible commitment to customer service and just a passion for our library and a vision for the library that is more than just a library. And we do appreciate your contribution to that, Jeremy. These attributes have led to his promotion to the manager of the children's department in 2017. And our children's department is absolutely one of the best in the country. And we're so glad to have it and appreciate all the work that he has done towards that. But he has spearheaded projects like the Library Community Pantry and the free summer lunch program, which helps eliminate hunger for kids in Hoover. He was instrumental in establishing the Story Walk, where families can enjoy stories as they stroll through Aldrich Gardens, combing through literacy and physical activities. His efforts in bringing little free libraries into 19 apartment complexes across Hoover have made books accessible to all. Most recently, Jeremy has spearheaded the Bookmobile Project, which eventually brings the joy of reading directly to our community's doorstep. This will ensure that everyone, regardless of their location, has access to resources and programs that they need. Jeremy's idea knows his ideas know no boundaries, and that's why he is really a cornerstone of our library. And we're so grateful to have an individual like Jeremy who has spent 30 years with us, and there's no doubt, no arguing, we have the best library in the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor. We will now move to our reports. And Ms. Cornett, I'm sorry, we have some announcements. Let's do those first before reports. Folks from Hoover Helps are here. Greg Bishop is here. I think he has a team with him he may want to introduce, but Greg, we'll welcome you.
I'm meeting with many of you next week to go into a lot of details, but between our community partners, Neighborhood Bridges platform, and Hoover Helps, over $400,000 went out the door in 2023 to help children and families in need locally. And we couldn't do this without the generous support of the people of Hoover, the City Council, and all our faith-based partners that really do the heavy lifting. The first fundraiser of the year is the Hoover versus Spain Park game coming up in a couple weeks. So please text to give. You can Venmo at Hoover Helps or donate any way you see fit. So thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Greg.
Mr. President, wait, Mr. Bishop. Mr. Bishop. May I ask you one quick question? Sure. Who's won the last 5 competitions between Spain Park and Hoover?
Hoover squeaked it by last year.
Oh, they did? Oh.
Yeah, it was a mailbox controversy. There was a big check in the mailbox on Friday, and we had to take it. And so Hoover won last year, but the 4 years prior to that had been a good showing for Spain Park.
Very good.
All 17 schools win then, because all the money goes to help all 17 schools.
We also have with us tonight organizers of the Alabama Tamil Sangam's Cricket Tournament and Festival. I understand we have some folks that would like to come talk to us about the upcoming cricket tournament.
Good evening, the council and everybody over here. Cricket, of course, many of you would have heard about cricket. We are proud to represent the game and bring the popularity of cricket in this area, and Hoover has been a very significant help for us in promoting the game. Cricket has gained in popularity so much that this year's Cricket World Cup was co-hosted in the United States along with the Caribbean islands, and India was the champions this year. So, additionally, cricket is gaining more popularity in form of Major League Cricket and everything, but how we can relate and take it down to our city level is going to be a significant leap, and Hoover has been a big partner for us in promoting the game in the city of Hoover. We have organized recreational cricket the last couple of years, and we have grown from 12 teams, participating teams, to this year we have 20 teams participating in our tournament. So that clearly proves the significance and the growth of the game. And teams from out of town, from Montgomery and a couple of Tennessee, and all of them are coming. So thanks to City of Hoover. We had some great memories. Alabama Tamil Sangam is the organization which is hosting this cricket tournament along with this partnership with the City of Hoover. We had some great memories. The mayor coming and pitching and hitting in the past, along with a few councilmen. There's going to be plenty of food and fun and music, and we try to promote the game in a very responsible way and try to involve as many as locals, and down the line in future, we're wanting to try to take it to the schools as well, as much. And so the more of you show up along with your kids, it's the better. And there's always time for another sports to squeeze it in our schedule, don't we? As if we don't have enough sport already. But we do have room. It's gaining so much popularity. So please feel free to stop by. There's going to be food. Our sponsors are offering food for free, and there's going to be plenty of beverages. Coke is one of our sponsors. Along with that, Coke will have a setup over there. The main event is going to be on Saturday from 6 to 8 p.m. So thankful for the mayor to have accepted our invitation to be our guest of honor. And once again, it'll be a very memorable event. Another highlight this year is we wanted to give it back to the City of Hoover as well. So this time we're going to have a drive for donation for the first responders and the fire department. And ATS, or Alabama Tamil Sangam, will be also contributing and along to that cause to give it back to the City of Hoover for everything you've done and for us in the past. On that note, I would like to hand it over to Charles Daniel, who is the president of ATS, to share his experience and a few words.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here today. And like what Balaji just mentioned, we are excited. This we see beyond sports. It's a community event, brings people together, and we have planned a lot of interesting things throughout the weekend. So come with your families, experience the fun and activities, and hope we can have a wonderful time. Thank you.
By the way, the dates are on Labor Day weekend, starting from Friday evening. The games start at Friday evening at 5:30, and Saturday is the main event from 6 to 8 p.m. That is when we're going to have, along with that, I missed out another point. There's also a women's cricket game as well, which is going to be happening during that main time, where the dinner will be served, and parallelly you can enjoy the women's game along with the dinner. Please feel free to stop by. Thank you.
To further illustrate your point about cricket gaining popularity, most of you probably saw that it will be reintroduced into the Olympics in 2028 in Los Angeles. So,
Yes, I missed that point.
are you going to make the team? We hope so. Yes, sir. Thank you all for being with us. We'll now ask Ms. Cornett to come forward. She has a fiscal year 2023 annual audit comprehensive financial report, along with Mr. Keith Barfield.
Thank you. I'm Keith Barfield with the accounting firm BMSS, and I'm very happy to announce that last year's audit is completed, and we have issued an unmodified report, which means it doesn't get any better than that. So here to tell you all about it is Jennifer Cornett.
Thank you, Keith. I'm very excited, Mayor, Council, and citizens to finally be able to provide a financial report. This has been a long-awaited report, so let's get to it. It's hot off the presses. Wendy, would you go to the first page there? Before I get into the financial information, I would like to acknowledge a few people, key people that were instrumental in getting this project completed. Of course, BMSS, Jenny Gray, our engagement leader, Jake Backert, and Keith Barfield all were instrumental, of course, in helping us roll this report out. And we have all been working long hours to be able to bring this to you tonight. Also, the entire finance team, all of the employees in the finance department have worked for many months to bring this to fruition. I wanted to really give kudos to one specific person who made kind of clutch contributions. That's Claire Hamilton. She's one of our division directors in the finance department, and Claire's been with the city for a really long time, and she was able to help us connect a lot of dots. Additionally, we brought in a reserve team that I'm calling our resource team that consisted of a couple of folks who have retired from the city. So Robert Yeager, who acted as acting CFO or interim CFO and treasurer for the city before I got here, and Melissa Woods, who retired at the end of 2021. Both have been able to provide some institutional knowledge that we needed to be able to connect dots. So really want to thank both of y'all for your extra work. Additionally, we have another person on the Hoover team, which is Mindy Wyatt. Mindy is a strategic analyst for the city and doesn't work for the finance department, but she has been one of those clutch players. So want to give thanks and gratitude to all of those parties that have made all of this happen. I'm also happy to announce that the city received for the 40th year in a row the GFOA's Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. This is an award that's given by the Government Finance Officers Association for clear and concise and easy to read financial information. And the city has been the recipient of this award for many years, and we hope to continue to receive this award. So I wanted to point that out. So tonight I'll be previewing three different kinds of financial reports that are embodied in the ACFR, starting with the government-wide statements, a statement of net position, then followed by the government funds, and then we'll take a look at the proprietary funds. And I'll try to keep this as exciting as you can make accounting information exciting, as exciting as possible. So just as a preview, as we think about the statement of net position, so this is one of the statements that we refer to as the government-wide financial statements. And it really is designed to provide a comprehensive view of the overall financial health of the city and to assess long-term financial stability. So I'm going to show you a couple of slides in just a minute, but the main highlights are that we have $329 million more assets than liabilities on our statement of net position, that our total net position increased by $14 million for the current year, and I'll get into some of the details of that, and then just our total net position for governmental activities. That's all encompassing, supposed to include everything related to the government of $321 million. Now that's a really big number that can be a little bit misleading, but this does include $267 million of net investment in capital assets. So let's take a look at the statement of net position on the next page. Okay, so we have two columns, right, and a total. So the government activities are going to include everything related to government funds, plus what we call our internal service funds. So these are the funds that exist to support the basic operations of the city. So that would include workers' comp, that would include both of our health insurance internal service funds, and our property and casualty internal service fund. So that's our governmental activities column there. The business type activities are going to include what we call our enterprise funds, which is a sewer fund, and our redevelopment fund. So as we look at this, again, the highlights were that our total net position, right? So that's the number all the way down at the bottom of that right-hand total, 329, thank you, Wendy, $329 million of total net position. This represents a $14 million increase over the prior year. And then total net position just for the governmental activities, $321 million. That's the number that I said, remember, that's not cash money necessarily. That does include our net investment in capital assets, which the city has a fair amount of. Okay, so moving on to the statement of activities, that is also part of our government-wide statements that we want to look at. And this is probably the busiest slide that I'm going to present, and so you'll be happy to know that. But the point of the statement of activities is really to show that while the primary government does take in some program revenues, the program revenues are not enough really to sustain the government activities that we have, right? So we've taken in a small amount in proportion to our expenses related to fines, operating grants and contributions, and capital grants and contributions. But as we look under the net expense side of things under governmental activities, the $140 million deficit there means that our program revenues don't cover all of our expenses. We need our tax revenues to be able to do that. So our net expenses for governmental activities are $140 million. And when we calculate in all of our revenues, which include our tax revenues of $150 million on the next line below the negative 140, right? That gives us a positive change in position of $10 million. One thing I want to point out as we slide to the right and look at our business type activities. So remember, this is going to be including our sewer. These are the funds that act like businesses or get presented like business information. So it includes our sewer and the redevelopment fund. The sewer had a net change in position, those two funds combined, of $902,795, okay, bringing our total change in net position at the government-wide level of $9.3 million. We did have a prior period adjustment related to OPEB expectations, so that's our other pension employment benefits, related to some actuarial, having a hard time with that adjustment there, but that's where that $14 million increase, it actually was to the city's favor, an adjustment of $4.9 million to the beginning of year balance there. So we ended up, from a governmental activity standpoint, with $321 million in net position and a grand total net position for the city of $329 million. Okay. So next, I'd like to talk about kind of our bread and butter, really where we tend to focus most of our attention when we're looking at financial reports, and that's at the government fund statements. We're going to be looking at a balance sheet and then a statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. Both of these statements are going to provide information to us about the flow and the availability of resources for spending in the near term, and that is something of pertinent interest to council as it seeks to make fiscal decisions for the city. So a couple of highlights that I want to talk about, and then we'll look at the statements. Our pooled cash and investment. So the city is in a very liquid position with in a normal situation, we call these cash and cash equivalents. So we have $247 million of liquid cash and investments. This is a 71% increase over last year. Now, arguably, a good portion of this increase is related to the 2023 bond issue of $93 million, but we still have even more than that in terms of increase, and so that's certainly a positive highlight. We ended up with a general fund balance of $69 million and some change. And then if we want to look across all the government funds, we're sitting at a $241 million total fund balance. Revenues went up by 8%, and we had a pretty nice excess of revenues over expenditures. That means we had $26 million more revenues than expenses for the city. So let's take a look at the governmental funds balance sheet. And I'd like to go ahead and explain kind of what these columns are. The general fund is, that whole column relates to our general operations, the operations of the city, and is where we spend most of our time and focus in talking about how are we going to use those funds. Capital projects are exactly what that says, capital projects that are going to result in long-term assets or benefits to the city. We have another column to account for the borrowings that we had in 2023. That's the Series 2023 Construction Fund. And then our non-major governmental funds includes grants, our special revenues. We have a number of special revenues, and also some of our non-major capital projects in that column. So when we think about the sum total of all of our government funds, right, that's that final third or fifth column on the right that gives you kind of a roll-up of all four of those things together. So when we look at the total government funds and see these assets of $279 million, one of the points that I wanted to make about that is that of our assets, of that $279 million, $247 million of it exists in our pool cash and investment account, and that is a good thing. That means we're very, very liquid to that end. As we scroll down and look at our fund balance, right? So that would be, in normal business terms, what we would call the equity position of the city. And here I really want to focus on the column for the general fund to explain how we get to that total fund balance of $69 million, since that's kind of our most important area of purview. So we have a number of numbers, right, that are being added together to reach that $69 million. I will start with the committed amount of $3.6 million. This is the Budget Stabilization Fund, where council set up to, when we have years of more than 4% increase in revenues, we set aside 30% of that into a committed fund for kind of a rainy day. So we have accumulated $3.6 million related to that budget stabilization commitment. The assigned to $2,958,782 consists of earmarked funds that are really available for libraries and parks and rec. And the unassigned is the biggest amount, the $63,104,717 is the biggest, makes the biggest contribution to our total fund balance in the general fund. As we kind of pan across, and we're going to be looking at the statement of revenues, expenses here in just a minute, but I do want to touch on these fund balance items that are in the other categories. So as we look at capital projects, right, we have, by the way, and this is good news, fully funded all of our capital project commitments for the year. And so that's why $62 million is sitting there on that committed line. As you look at the next column and you see restricted funds of $90,257,000, those are being shown as restricted because they are restricted by the terms of the original issue bond document that we did. So these are, this $90 million is earmarked for capital projects and specific capital projects, and that's why it's included on that line. And then, of course, on the non-majors, we have the $16,222,000. That's the sum total of all of our special revenues, and special revenues by nature are earmarked for particular purposes. So that's why it shows up in that restricted line. But as we look at the total fund balance for the governmental funds for the total government funds, $240 million is where we landed. Okay, let's take a look at the statement of revenues, expenses, expenditures, and changes in fund balance, because this kind of tells more of a story about what happened with our government funds. And again, focusing on the general fund, we had $171 million of general fund revenues, and I mentioned this before, but since I've been talking for a while, I'll remind you, that was an 8.4% increase over the prior year. So we increased our revenues and ended up having more revenues than expenses, which is always good, $26,777,388. Okay, so our excess, then the question is, well, what did we do with our excess? And the answer is that we took our excess and we committed it to capital projects and to the purpose of needing to cure some deficits in our special revenue accounts. So I'd like to really focus in on those transfers in and transfers out because they're big numbers, okay? So let's look at the transfer in of $8,975,000. Those are ARPA funds that were transferred into the general fund out of grants. So if you look in the fourth column, you'll see transfer out under non-governmental funds of $8,975,000, and it's going from the non-governmental funds to, non-major governmental funds to the general fund. And the purpose for that is that when we're accounting for those grant funds, we account for them in the period of time that we're making the expenditure. So we chose to use the majority of those ARPA funds to offset salaries, which was one of the things that we could use those that grant money for. The transfers out of $46 million, okay? So let's address that. The majority of the $46 million, as you can see, went over to the capital projects funds to fund initiatives that council has approved and decided were good projects that were going to be a future benefit to the city. So funding our projects that we make commitments to is always a good thing. So $35 million of the 46 went to do that. And then as you can see under the non-major governmental funds, there was a transfer to those of almost $7.5 million. That is the transfer that I alluded to earlier that was for the purpose of curing a couple years of worth of prior year deficiencies in some of those special revenues. Namely, we have 911, courts and corrections, and stormwater. Those were the three funds that were cured, and they are now made whole. And so that also is a good thing. So that's the accounting of what we did with our excess in the general fund last year. Special items of $3,025,000, those are revenue rebates that were paid out to developers that were agreed by council. And so our net change in the general fund balance was a little over $10 million, bringing our end of year fund balance to the $69,781,584 in the general fund. So not to ignore the fund balance in capital projects or in the general obligation warrants fund or in the non-major governmental funds, but that general fund balance is really the number that council uses then to make decisions about what kind of commitments need to be made to future projects. And so that's why I wanted to emphasize that. Okay, and moving on. This is much longer than I thought it would be, but not as long as a college class, so that's good. Our last thing to talk about are the proprietary fund statements. So these are the funds that have business-like kinds of operations. We've got two types, enterprise and internal service funds. So the enterprise funds that we have for the city are the sewer and redevelopment funds. And then we have a number of internal service funds, and internal service funds are funds that exist to support and benefit the city. So we've got two health insurance funds, one for active employees and one for retirees, a workers' comp fund, and a property and casualty fund. So as we look at the statement of net position for these funds, we can see that for sewer, we ended with a total net position of $6.9 million. There's a little over $1 million left in the redevelopment fund, bringing our total fund balance or net position, for the sum of the two of $8,026,000. And then in that far right column, we have just the information about those 4 internal service funds that I discussed. And what you'll see there is, yes, that is the parentheses mean we have a negative number in those internal service funds, and now I need to explain to you why. Okay, so again, and that's okay, you can leave that on that slide. Going back to those 4 internal service funds that we have the retirees and we have the current employee insurance, health insurance, and that negative position in our internal service funds is related to the retirees. One of the things that we do is rely on actuarial assumptions, said it right that time, to be able to fund those internal service funds. And so especially with the retirees, what we're trying to do is approximate what the burden is going to be on the city to be able to provide those benefits. It is customary and normal to have a little bit of a negative balance in the retirees fund. And so we chose to leave that alone. The rest of the funds are cured with positive balances, which you will see when you are able to look at your 160 some odd page ACFR in the supplementary information. So as we move on, the last thing, and look at our statement revenues, expenditures, and changes in position. With the sewer, we actually had an increase in revenues over the prior year for sewer, which was a good thing. Still ended up with an operating loss for sewer. We have some interest that's accumulated based on debt, that's sewer-only debt. And so when we look at the loss before transfers of $947, that is a negative number, right? So almost $950,000 of loss before transfers. And all that means is that our revenues are not covering our expenditures there. So little by little every year, we're kind of whittling away at the net position that we have there. So we ended with a net position of $6.9 million. The redevelopment fund had no changes in it for the fiscal year 2023. So the $1 million is still sitting there. That was there in the prior year, bringing the total net position for the enterprise funds to be $8,026,631. And here you see the internal service funds end of year negative balance that we just discussed previously. One of the things related to internal service funds I do want to point out, because you see at the bottom, there's net position beginning of the year as originally stated, and there's a prior period adjustment. That's that other pension employment benefits adjustment that I was talking about a minute ago. So the last fiscal year-end report that you saw had a deficit of $11 million for our internal service funds. And when we applied the prior period adjustment, that brought it to $6.3 million negative net position at the beginning of the year. Okay, so we made a little bit of an improvement beginning of year to the end of year because we have a less negative balance in those internal service funds. What do we have next, Wendy? I think that's it. That was a lot of information to be putting on slides for people to, is everybody awake? Okay. Does council have any questions for me? I know you haven't. I will just say this report literally is hot off the presses. Major kudos to everybody involved with this process because I don't know if anybody has slept over the last 10 days, myself included. So this literally, the bound versions, it takes time to print them out, so you don't have the bound versions for you, but the electronic version is available for you to look at. It was as of 4:05 today, I think.
And that is online? Ms.
It is
Grant?
not online yet, but it is on our,
I'll place it online. It'll be on, I just got it,
Okay.
so I've
she
not
literally
placed.
just got it.
Right, right before the meeting,
Right.
Yes,
so.
ma'am. Thank you. Any comments from the body tonight?
Again, I know that was a lot of information, and so in the coming days and weeks, if y'all want me to come back and address specific concerns, when you have had a chance to review and read the entire 160 pages, which I know you will, then I can come back and elaborate if y'all have questions.
Very good. If you'll introduce our next guest as
I
well. please.
will. Okay. So, very happy to have this end-of-year financial audit. As many folks know, a few months ago, we asked Kroll to do an accounting review of our books and records, and so I would like to introduce John Slavic from Kroll to give an update on those endeavors.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Jennifer, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me here this evening. I was in town anyway to do some interviews, and the mayor and city council thought it might be a good idea to meet you all and talk to you a little bit about the process of what we're doing, the status, where we're at. We are issuing our report this week, so I can give you a pretty good sense of where we are. I can't give you a lot of detail tonight, but I want to give you the highlights. I know there's a lot of interest in this. First, if you were indulge me for just a few minutes, I want to talk a little bit about myself and the firm I work for. Again, I'm John Slavic. I'm a CPA, former auditor. I worked for one of the big four firms 30-something years ago as an auditor and discovered forensic accounting back then, and I've been doing it for 28 years. I just want a quick word about forensic. I think it kind of has the CSI effect. People think forensic, there's got to be fraud, there's got to be a crime, there's something going on. If you're an old guy like me, you think about Jack Klugman, and Quincy was a forensic pathologist. All forensic means is gathering in evidence that's admissible in a court of law. So every engagement we take, and I've taken hundreds of them, every procedure we take is as if though at some point we might have to testify in court. So you want evidence, you want documentation, you want financial records, you want email, you want everything you can to get to the truth and to tell the story. And that's why we were brought here. The firm I work for, Kroll's, been around for about 50 years. Started out as more due diligence, background checks on vendors in New York City. At one point, we were called Wall Street's private eyes because we were doing a lot of background work for Wall Street firms. I don't know if many of you are familiar with what's called an elevator pitch. So it's basically you have 30 seconds on an elevator to talk about what your firm does. We have one of the greatest elevator pitches you can imagine. We were hired to find Saddam Hussein's hidden assets around the world by the government of Kuwait. Our restructuring group took over Enron during the Enron failure, and we were on The Sopranos. So, and that definitely gets the conversation going. It gets a lot of questions going. So if you want to look up Kroll and what we did on The Sopranos, it's an interesting story. We're a huge group. We do a lot more than investigations and forensic accounting. We have a huge valuation practice, corporate finance, M&A, security, compliance. We are in 80 offices in 32 countries with over 6,500 employees. So I'm just a very small piece of Kroll. Let's get to Hoover and why I'm here. We were retained by counsel for Hoover to address concerns, including some of the following: the city's financial reporting, unbalanced transactions, unreconciled accounts, and delayed audit reports. It's convenient that I'm here tonight and the folks from BMSS are here tonight, and the audit report's coming out today. Just a little history, going back to 2017, the average turnaround time for an audit report to be issued was 6 months. For the past 2 years, it's been 11 months, and this year, 10 and a half months. There's reasons for that, and that's one of the reasons we were brought in. What's going on? Why are we having these delays? What's going on with our finance department? Why can't we get the records right? So it's a piece of why we were brought on. And that gets to the operations of the city's finance department. What's going on there? Why is it taking so long to get the right results to our auditors? And then there was a concern about multiple deleted electronic records and missing files. That's happened over the, primarily last year, but what's going on there? What's happened to these files? How come we can't find them? Over the course of the past 3 months, we've working very closely with Jennifer and her team. We've reviewed, what do we have? And analyzed probably thousands of records, budgets, financial statements, reconciliations, bank statements, wire and check payments and their support, communications, trying to put the story together and inform you folks about what's been going on here. We've interviewed more than 20 current and former employees and also performed backup interviews when necessary. There's been a few folks we've interviewed multiple times just to get clarification on things, or we found out something new. Let's talk about this other issue we found. We've also talked with the BMSS team on a number of occasions. They've been tremendously helpful. There were 2 issues we found during the course of our review and analysis where we reached out and they had, it was one of their audit adjusting journal entries already. They said, John, we're all over this. We know what the problem is. It was a payroll issue with the IRS. Here's the entry. Here's all the documentation for it. So kudos to them. There was another one where they just did a fantastic job helping us, once again, to get to the bottom of what's going on here and to tell the story what's going on here. I'm going to talk a little bit about independence and what our philosophy is. We're independent investigators. We're fact finders. I do a lot of litigation work, plaintiffs and defense side, and I tell both sides, I look for the truth. The numbers are what the numbers are. There's gray areas in accounting just like there are in law, but the numbers are what the numbers are. I'm not going to increase potential damages for a plaintiff for settlement purposes. Likewise, the same thing for defendants. I'm going to give you a number that I'll sit in the courtroom and I'll say, this is the number. That's always a philosophy that Kroll has. It's my personal philosophy. So we are independent. We independently developed a work plan for this assignment based on the background information that was provided to us and revised the work plan as required during the course of the assignment. We do not solely rely on verbal information provided by individuals, but also to the extent possible corroborated the verbal information with other individuals and or available contemporaneous documents. The city did not in any way limit access to information to current or former staff or even to third parties like BMSS or the NCIF. There's been quite a few folks we've talked to in the city. And they facilitated interviews when necessary with current and former staff, but did not participate in any interviews. And that's always key for us. We want people to be able to talk freely to us. They don't want to be sitting when their boss is there saying, oh, can I say this or not say that? We always, whenever possible, we insist on doing the interviews ourselves. And they agree to that. Let me just give you a couple of high-level conclusions. I think one of the most important ones is we did not identify any specific evidence of financial fraud, financial malfeasance, or asset misappropriation by any city employees or anybody in the city that we saw. But there were repeated issues with the finance department over the last approximate 4 years. I'm going to paraphrase the conclusion to our report. It was almost a perfect storm of multiple negative factors coming together at the same time. We had significant departures in late 2019 through early 2021. Robert Yeager, Melinda and Frank Lopez, Melissa Moore, Ben Powell, all retired within a year and a month. And then we had Melissa Woods, who Jennifer mentioned, who retired as payroll division director in December 21. There's a huge experience void when you have that many people leave. The department's only 15 to 16 people. And you have 5 or 6 senior people, experienced people like that leaving in such a short amount of time. It was really a setback for the department. Obviously, you bring in replacements. They tried a lot of replacements in-house, but it's hard to replicate that level of experience, not just in time, but in familiarity with the processes and what you should be doing. And I'm getting into more detail. Our report is 40 pages long with 36 or 37 exhibits. It's going to come out later this week. I could talk about it, but we'd be here for the next 5 or 6 hours. So I'm just going to give you a little bit, few bits and pieces. We call it an experience disparity. So there's 3 divisions in the finance department: budget and purchasing, revenue, and the general ledger and payroll division. We got records from human resources going back 5 or 6 years and looked at the makeup of those departments. The budget and purchasing department, led by Claire Hamilton, who deservedly got some praise from Jennifer tonight, has an average of 20 years experience here at Hoover. The revenue department, led by Ken Davidson, has 16 years experience by the people in that department. The general and payroll division, 3.6, not even close. So again, we pointed out there's a huge disparity in the experience in these 3 departments. Oddly enough, a lot of the issues, maybe not oddly enough, a lot of the issues occurred in that department, in the general ledger department and in the payroll department. I'm not sure how many people are familiar with the payroll issues there were over the past few years when there was a new ERP system was put in, Munis. A lot of people were overpaid, underpaid, W-2s were wrong. Again, a lot of this, that was my next point here, is that the problematic Munis implementation just added to the concerns and the issues within the department. It was almost like a domino effect. There's one thing happens, knocks a domino over, next thing, the next thing, it almost cascaded down to where a lot of the staff that we interviewed just felt very frustrated that they couldn't do their jobs the right way. They were overworked, they felt understaffed, there's these new systems, we don't quite understand a lot of things. So again, this adds to the issues. We do believe the finance department is understaffed. We looked at staffing in Tuscaloosa and Auburn, and they both have almost double the finance department staff you had here. I understand there was a study that was done in 2017 by a firm called Gallagher that came up with a similar conclusion, that the finance department can really use another 6 or 7 people. I think what got you by in the prior years is because the people you had here were so good at what they did and were so experienced and were able to do the job, maybe the job of 2 or more people to get things done. I can highlight a couple of the bigger issues. Again, I mentioned the reconciliations or the general ledger division. One of the big issues there was unreconciled accounts. Having an unreconciled account is similar to not balancing your checkbook. You don't know exactly how much money's coming in. You don't know exactly how much money's going out. You don't know what your balances are. It's been an ongoing problem in Hoover for a couple of years now. They don't quite have. It's good enough so that BMSS can sign off for it. They figured it out. They made the journal entries that were necessary, but it's been an ongoing problem. And then payroll that we talked about earlier, getting things right with payroll, getting things right with the IRS. There's some issues with overpayments and underpayments to the IRS. So, these are just a few of the highlights. I would love to take questions, but unfortunately, our company's policy is we cannot take questions until we issue a final report. So hopefully, once that comes out later this week, we can come back to town, or we can make some type of arrangements, work with City Council, the City Attorney, and the Mayor, and Jennifer, and address any concerns we have. So, thank you for your time.
We'll now move to our consent agenda. Items 1 through 8 are presented as consent items that we will take and read and vote on with one motion and one vote, unless, of course, a member of the body or a member of the public would like one of the items removed to the regular agenda. I'll ask first the council, any items 1 through 8 that you would like removed to the regular agenda?
Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
Before we get to the consent agenda, I'd like to recall a motion or a resolution from the August 5th agenda. As a member of the affirmative of that vote, Robert Rules gives me that right. So I will make a motion to approve Resolution 8189-24.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Mr. Corley, do you need to read that resolution?
I don't have a copy of it. Okay, here it is. Yeah, this is a resolution approving payment of legal services performed for the benefit of a city officer who desired to secure legal services other than those normally provided by the city.
Any discussion from the body on the resolution? Any comments from the public on the resolution? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Posey?
Aye.
Counselor Driver?
Abstain.
Counselor Murphy?
Aye.
Counselor Middlebrooks?
Aye.
Counselor McClinton?
Abstain.
Counselor Lida?
Nay. With a vote of 3 ayes, 1 nays, and an abstention, the motion carries. We'll now move to the consent agenda, and I'll ask again the members of the body, anyone like to remove an item to the regular agenda? Any member of the public here would like to speak on items 1 through 8? We'll be happy to remove it. Seeing none, Mr. Corley.
Item number 1 submits the bills to the City Council for approval. Item number 2 is the approval of the minutes from the June 3rd, 2024 meeting, the June 13th, 2024 meeting, the June 17th, 2024 meeting, the July 1st, 2024 meeting, July 11th, 2024 work session, July 15th, 2024 meeting, August 1st, 2024 work session, August 5th, 2024 meeting are all submitted to the council for approval. Item number 3, Resolution 819824 accepts the resignation of City Treasurer Robert Yeager and appoints Jennifer Cornett as the City Treasurer for the City of Hoover for a term to expire on November 3rd, 2025. Item 4, Resolution 819924 authorizes Mayor Brocato to execute a standard number 1 non-reimbursable agreement with AT&T, doing business as Bell South Telecommunications, to relocate their facilities on the Valleydale Road right-of-way between US 31 and River Chase Parkway East. Resolution 820024 authorizes Mayor Brocato to execute an agreement with the Public Park and Recreation Board of the City of Hoover and the Southeastern Conference for the SEC baseball tournament from 2025 through 2028 with 2 one-year options for 2029 and 2030. Resolution 820124 authorizes Mayor Brocato to execute an agreement with Jefferson State Community College for the purpose of providing opportunities to perform community service work. Resolution 820224 authorizes Mayor Brocato to execute an agreement with Inmate Calling Solutions, LLC, doing business as IC Solutions, to provide tablets to the inmates for free educational, research, book, and religious materials and job searches. Resolution number 820324 authorizes Mayor Brocato to execute a memorandum of understanding with the Alabama Fire College to provide a specific and limited set of services to the Hoover Fire Department regarding examinations, testing for candidates seeking promotion to or selection for the positions of captain and lieutenant.
Mr. President, I move for approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and second for approval. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Before me have a letter of resignation from Robert Yeager that was to be effective upon the passage of resolution number 8198-24. So with the passage of that resolution, Robert is now officially retired yet again from the city of Hoover. But I know you heard Robert's name mentioned in the financial reports, and it can't be overstated the importance of his presence not only throughout his full-time career, but his willingness to come back and serve as a consultant. So, Robert, I know you wouldn't like this, but would y'all join me in thanking Robert Yeager for all the work he's done? Thank you. Thank you very much. We'll now move to the regular agenda, beginning with item number 9, resolution number 8188A-24. Mr. Corley.
This resolution amends resolution number 818824 to provide for the streaming and permanent archiving of all official meetings of the Hoover City Council held in the City Council chambers on the city's YouTube channel, and to establish a section on the city website for public access to meeting minutes, agendas, and video links.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 8188A-24.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions from the council?
Mr. President, there's one comment. I commend our council for the level of work they placed into this particular one originally. The only modification that, the only item that gave me some pause for the modification from an 8-year to a permanent is legislation intent that past Council President Gene Smith stated, and some other commentary that took place at that particular council meeting. So that's, I'll yield.
Very good. Any other comments? Any comments from the public tonight? Seeing none, there's a motion and second for approval. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Item number 10 is Resolution 8204-24. Mr. Corley.
This resolution establishes the office of the city council and creates the role of city council administrator or assistant to the city council as an unclassified employee position.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 8204-24.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any comments or questions from the council?
Mr. President, one comment based upon Councilwoman's driver's comment about this, about the job description. It's a note within the resolution that states that will be determined. So that covers us. Legal can make a statement if I'm incorrect on that. That covers us to be able to look at that during the budget time, and then also the grade to be a part of that discussion as well too. So, hope you good with that? Okay.
Yeah, that covers it. Thank
Okay,
you.
I just want to make sure.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Any other comments? Any comments or questions from the public tonight on this resolution? Seeing none, there's a motion and a second for approval. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Item number 11, resolution number 8205-24. Mr. Corley.
This resolution requests an opinion of the Alabama Attorney General related to payment of attorney's fees for a city councilor.
Mr. President, I move for the withdrawal of resolution number 8205-24.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for withdrawal of the resolution. Any comments from the body tonight?
Just a couple of comments, well, one in particular, and I'll land with that. I know we received an email some time back from legal as it relates to the council's decision to bring forth this matter to the public. And just correct me if I'm wrong, legal, that it was stated that it was up to us in the conversation that you had with the AG's office and the Ethics Commission at the time. Definitely wasn't a document, but I want to say it was a discussion you had with those bodies. Can you confirm and or discuss a little bit about the email that was sent out about the process?
Well, the email you're referring to is from October 18th of last year, and it was part of a series of emails between Council President Lyda, Councilor Posey, and Mayor Brocato talking about the city's policy regarding the payment of legal fees. So, yes, that was an email in that context, but now that the previous resolution has been approved, I think it's moot. So,
But I just want to make sure, again, per my reading of that particular email was based upon my decision. Secondly, it was one point, and I'll leave this piece of it alone. In reading, the legal reading, the description in the last meeting, it stated that the employee initially had some concerns about meeting. Don't really know what those concerns can be, but then it came back unsolicited and stated that she no longer has said concerns. So based upon those two points is the reason why I was fine with voting on tonight.
Very well. Any other comments? There's a motion second for withdrawal. Any comments from the public tonight before we proceed? Yes, sir.
Hello, good evening. I'm David Bannister. I live at 9017 Stevens Street Drive in Hoover, Alabama. And I understand from what's previously been said and your point, it may be moot because I believe you voted to pay those fees. I would like to ask Councilwoman Driver and Councilman Lyda why they voted nay and abstained.
I appreciate the question, David. I'm happy to answer it. I abstained because there is a pending request for an ethics opinion sitting in front of the Ethics Commission right now. And if that Ethics Commission comes back and says that it's unethical to reimburse these fees, then those who voted yes up here are going to have an ethical problem. And my ethics and integrity matter to me even more than my relationship with Councilor McClinton. And so that has to come first. And so, you know, with that question out there pending, I don't think it was wise at all for the council to vote on it. That's why I worked all weekend to come up with a consolidated statement of the facts that everyone could agree on. And, you know, I think it's unfortunate that we moved forward with a vote because I don't think that was wise.
Well, I tend to agree with what Councilman Murphy just said. It's a nothing burger. And I would like to further reiterate that I got to know Steve in 2016 when he asked me to support him for mayor, and I politely declined him because I was politicking and campaigning very hard for Frank Brocato, who I helped get elected. And we became good friends as a result of the fact that I didn't even help him in his bid for mayoral. And I've seen the acts and the works that he's done in this city, and it just sickens me to see that there's all of this motion around something that never happened. And if something were to happen to you, Ms. Driver, or you, Mr. Lyda, or you, Mr. Murphy, or Middlebrooks, or Posey, I would be up here defending each and every one of you as well. It is just a sad day for our city to even have this on the docket, and for someone to have to basically put themselves out there to cover it, because what we know this was something that was put away for another day. And Steve publicly outed himself with the courage, knowing that the people of Hoover who know him and know him best know that this wasn't him and it wasn't about him. And this is not a good day for the city in my estimation. Whether it's ethical or not, I don't know the legalese. But what's right is right.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Do you have a comment specifically about the resolution that's before us? The resolution is about the withdrawal of the opinion. Do you have a comment specific to that?
Well, yes, my disappointment was your vote of no and her vote of abstention, so that's my comment.
Thank you. Any other comments tonight? No other comments. Very good. We have a motion and a second for withdrawal. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion carries. Item number 12, resolution number 8221-24, Mr. Corley.
This resolution rejects the bid for street sweeping services, bid number 24-008, submitted by Sweeping Corporation of America, LLC, and authorizes Mayor Brocato to negotiate and execute an agreement with Sweeping Corporation of America, LLC, for an amount not less than the bid submittal amount of $159,393.20.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 8221-24.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval. Mr. Connor is here. Any updates from Thursday night, sir? At work session? We
Didn't make Thursday night, sorry, sir.
Okay. We talked about it at work session, had a briefing on it. Any members of the council have a comment or question for Mr. Connor? Any comments from the public tonight on this item? Seeing none, we have a motion second for approval. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Item number 13, resolution number 8206-24, Mr. Corley.
Yes, this resolution declares a weed and other vegetation nuisance and directs the abatement of said nuisance pursuant to Alabama law for the property located at 103 Inverness Corners.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 8206-24.
Second.
We have a motion and second for approval. This is the first of a long line of abatements and nuisances, but Mr. Martin is here with some good news that some have been cleaned up. In fact, I think we had 7 perhaps that.
That is correct. We have a number that did self-abate over the weekend. So
You'll
always
see.
happy to report that.
We like self-abatement. There is one that we will move to withdraw later in the agenda on item number 20, but we'll begin this, of course, with item number 13 at 103 Inverness Corners. Is there any members of the council to speak about this resolution? Any member of the public here to speak on this address? Very good. We have a motion and second for approval. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Item number 14, resolution number 8207-24, Mr. Corley.
Declares a weed and other vegetation nuisance and directs the abatement of said nuisance pursuant to Alabama law for the property located at 104 Inverness Corners.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 8207-24.
Second.
We have a motion and second. We'll open the public hearing. Any member of the body wish to speak on the item? Any member of the public here to speak on this address? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Item 15, resolution number 8208-24, Mr. Corley.
This resolution declares a weed and other vegetation nuisance and directs the abatement of said nuisance pursuant to Alabama law for the property located at 105 Inverness Corners.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 8208-24.
Second.
Have a motion and second. Open the public hearing for members of the body. Any comments tonight on this address? Any member of the public here to speak? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed. We have a motion and second for approval. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Now move to item 16, resolution 8209-24. Mr. Corley.
This resolution declares a weed and other vegetation nuisance and directs the abatement of such nuisance pursuant to Alabama law for property located at 105 Inverness Plaza.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 8209-24.
Second.
There's a motion and second for approval. The public hearing is open, and any member of the body would like to speak? Any member of the public here to speak? Seeing none, we have a motion and second for approval. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries. Item 17, resolution number 8211-24, Mr. Corley.
This resolution declares a weed and other vegetation nuisance and directs the abatement of said nuisance pursuant to Alabama law for the property located at 1828 Val Green Lane.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 8211-24.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Open the public hearing for the body. Any member would like to speak? Any member of the public here to speak on the Val Green address? Public hearing is closed. We have a motion and second for approval. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Item 18, resolution number 8212-24, Mr. Corley.
This resolution declares a weed and other vegetation nuisance and directs the abatement of said nuisance pursuant to Alabama law for the property located at 2049 Sweet Gum Drive.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 8212-24.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. The public hearing is open for the body to ask any questions about Sweet Gum Drive. Any member of the public here to speak on the item? Public hearing is closed. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries. Item number 19, resolution number 8213-24, Mr. Corley.
This resolution declares a weed and other vegetation nuisance and directs abatement of said nuisance pursuant to Alabama law for the property located at 2060 Wood Meadow Circle.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 8213-24.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. The public hearing is open. Any member of the body like to speak on Wood Meadow Circle? Any member of the public here to address this property? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and ask, with a motion and second for approval, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries. Item number 20 has been cut to satisfaction. We will read the resolution and look for a motion to withdraw. Actually, do we need to read it if we're going to withdraw? We'll entertain a motion to withdraw.
Mr. President, I move to withdraw resolution number 8215-24.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor to withdraw, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The item, resolution passes. Item number 20, or the motion passes, I should say. Item number 21, resolution number 8217-24, Mr. Corley.
This resolution declares a weed and other vegetation nuisance and directs the abatement of said nuisance pursuant to Alabama law for the property located at 3425 Strollaway Drive.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 8217-24.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. Any comments or questions from the body? Anyone from the public here regarding Strollaway? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The item passes. Item number 22, resolution number 8192-24, Mr. Corley.
This resolution authorizes the abatement of the weed and other vegetation nuisance at 2125 Tyler Lane, Hoover, Alabama.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 8192-24.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for approval. Any comments or questions from the body? Anyone from the public here to speak on this address? Anyone want to claim it? Motion and second for approval. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The item carries. Item number 23, resolution number 8193-24. Mr. Corley.
This resolution authorizes abatement of a weed and other vegetation nuisance at 2400 Savoy Street, Hoover, Alabama.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 8193-24.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. Any comments or questions from the body tonight on Savoy? Any member of the public here to speak about this address? There's a motion and a second for approval. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The motion carries. Item number 24 is an ordinance number 24-2656. Mr. Corley.
This ordinance amends ordinance number 263 to allow for 2 additional single-family residential units located on Lot 5E1 of International Park. The property is further described on Exhibit A to the ordinance for a total of 3 single-family units. The property is zoned PR1 or Planned Single Family.
Mr. Ivor, would you like to move on the item?
Sure, Mr. President. I move to adopt ordinance number 24-2656.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for adoption of the ordinance. Any comments or questions from the body? Any member of the public here to speak on the ordinance? Very good. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Posey?
Aye.
Counselor Driver?
Aye.
Counselor Murphy?
Aye.
Counselor Middlebrooks?
Aye.
Counselor McClinton?
Aye.
Counselor Lida?
Aye. With those 6 ayes, 0 nays, the motion carries. Item number 25, resolution number 8196-24. Corley.
This resolution grants conditional use to allow for an indoor golf and teaching facility with on-premises beer and wine sales for the property located at 1218 Alford Avenue.
8196-24.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for approval. Mr. Thompson, the applicant, is here, having worked incredibly hard on this item. I know he would be happy to entertain any comments or questions. Anything from the body tonight? Any member of the public here to speak on this item? Very good. There's a motion and a second for approval. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Item number 26 is resolution number 8219-24. Mr. Corley.
This approves a 040 retail beer on or off premises alcohol license and a 060 retail table wine on or off premises alcohol license for Thompson Golf, Inc., doing business as Thompson Golf, Inc., located at 1218 Alford Avenue, Hoover, Alabama.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 8219-24.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval. Any comments from the council tonight regarding this item? Any member of the public here to speak? Very good. We have a motion and a second for approval. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries. We'll now entertain 2 first readings. No action will be taken on these, but they will be taken up at our next regularly scheduled meeting, beginning with item number 27, resolution 8220-24. Mr. Corley.
This resolution authorizes the abatement of a weed and other vegetation nuisance at 2660 Foothills Drive, Hoover, Alabama. A public hearing is scheduled for September 3rd, 2024.
And finally, item number 28, ordinance number 24-2658. Mr. Corley.
This ordinance amends section 2-34.1 of the Hoover Municipal Code to provide for a 2-year term for the offices of President and President Pro Tem of the City Council. A public hearing is scheduled for September 3rd, 2024.
Very well. Any general comments from the council tonight?
Yes, Council President Lida, just a couple items. Expiring August the 30th, we have on the website a couple boards that we're trying to fill: Downtown Redevelopment Authority, Industrial Development Board, Commercial Development Authority. Have until August 30th to submit a resume to be requested, we can consider for those 3 boards.
Mr. President, I have 2. First, I want to make a statement. I must express my deep disappointment with the conduct displayed at the council meeting on August the 5th. The behavior exhibited fell short of the integrity and leadership we expect from this body and from ourselves as representatives of our city. We are entrusted with the responsibility of serving our community with the utmost professionalism and respect. This dais is a platform for addressing the critical issues facing our city and driving progress forward. Let us each recommit ourselves, including myself, to conducting our business with dignity, focus, grace, humility, and a shared commitment to the betterment of our community. Folks, I respect each and every member up here, and I know that we have the best intentions for our city. There's not one member that I don't believe that to be true. With that said, as you're coming in, you may have noticed a new bookmobile out front. I encourage you as you leave here tonight to stop by and take a look. Big kudos to Jeremy Davis for heading that up. Steve Knutson, I believe, will be driving that vehicle around town, making sure the whole community is served. Thank you.
Very good. Any other comments? Any member of the public like to make a comment tonight? Mr. Schultz?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Iris Claros. I live at 3144 Paradise Acres in Hoover, Alabama. And I'm here to speak about the condition of Paradise Lake. We have trees growing in the lake due to the amount of sediment that's coming into the lake. There's deer that are feeding in the middle of the lake. I've read the what was published in the Sun, and the Hoover Sun, about it being a, private lake and the funds and everything. I've been living at Paradise Lake for about 2 years, and I've seen the increased deterioration that the lake is coming to. We need to do something about the stormwater that's coming into the lake. It's a big issue. The lake is older than I am, and there's no reason why it should be dying at this point. There's this comment that the engineers that made it should have done something to retain some of the sediment that comes into the lake, but all the development that was around the city was not there when this lake was made. So there is a little bit of city responsibility for the development that's being allowed to happen around the lake and the amount of dirt that's coming into it. Me as a homeowner, I'm doing everything that I can to control the weeds. I'm doing everything that I control to fish trash out every month, but there's nothing much that I can do. All the other homeowners seem to be giving up on having this lake. And so think about the wildlife that feeds on the lake. Think about the children that are going to inherit the house when I'm done paying my 30-year mortgage. Like, if we don't do something about it, we're not going to have a lake there soon. Please help us.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Schultz.
I'm Robin Schultz from Bluff Park. After the passage of Resolution 818824 on August the 5th, Mr. Lyda gave some remarks to Fox 6. Some of those remarks need to be corrected. First remark, Mr. Lyda, quote, "Well, the state law clearly demonstrates what transparency is, and the city has been an incredibly transparent body for the last several years. State law does not demonstrate what transparency is. There's nothing in state law that mandates what a city can or cannot do as it pertains to transparency. It's up to the city. The city has not been a very transparent organization over the last few years, despite the mayor's core principle number 5. In fact, over the last 2 years, the council president and the city attorney have done everything in their power to remove transparency and instead of enhancing transparency in the city's business. The next remark was, quote, "In fact, 2 years ago, we strengthened that with a streaming policy." End quote. 2 years ago, you didn't strengthen transparency. You actually made it less transparent with this new policy because you removed the ability for residents who were not able to attend the meeting to view the council meetings in their entirety. The next remark, probably one of the first in Metro Birmingham to have a streaming policy. Well, that's not false. Most of the other cities in Birmingham and Metro Birmingham don't have a policy. There's no policy that's required. As a matter of fact, Resolution 818824 was passed in order to do away with this policy and bring back the previous method of streaming and archiving the meetings. The next remark by Mr. Leiter was, this not only allowed residents to watch live, but also watch recordings of those meetings after the meeting. So this just strengthens it a little bit more, but in essence does exactly what we did 2 years ago. In essence, it does the polar opposite of what was done 2 years ago. It does strengthen it from what happened 2 years ago, but that's not what it did 2 years ago. Mr. Leiter was the only council member who did not provide input onto the draft ordinance or make any changes to it, and actually took some punitive action against other members who introduced the resolution. Look, all of us have been paying attention to what has transpired over the past year. In November, Mr. Leiter spoke to our police chief like he was a child during a council meeting over a budget issue. In April, he made a shameful comment during a council meeting. On August the 5th, he interrogated every council member who was here over a $4,000 legal bill. He has no problem giving nearly 7 times that amount every month in lease payments for unoccupied office space. Every single one of you has complained about Mr. Leiter privately, all of you. Yet you stand idly by as he bullies his way through. I don't know if he'll be reelected next year, but if you continue to act as you do, odds are you won't. There's no statute of limitations on calling to vacate the chair. There's no limit to making the motion, especially when you're being gaslighted and bullied. Thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Schultz. Anyone else like to speak tonight? Ms. Fogel.
I almost wasn't going to speak, but then I realized the person who accosted me last time I spoke isn't here today, so I feel safer. For the record, my name is Apryl Marie Fogel, and that's Apryl Mariefogel. I spelled that because in the meeting minutes of the last time I spoke, it is spelled incorrectly. Those minutes were approved anyway. They were incredibly vague. You couldn't tell what I spoke about. You weren't here, so unless you go back and watch the video, you would never know what I spoke about. But what I spoke about was transparency and accountability, and that's what I'm here to talk about tonight. On June 11th, I submitted a public records request, and I was incredibly relieved to get here and find that Kroll Accounting did in fact speak tonight. But on June 11th, I put in a request with the clerk's office for, and I'm going to read it, all communication related to the need for forensic audit being performed by Kroll, the approval process for the audit, documents as to who participated in the interview and decision-making process for the audit company selected, where the funding of the audit is going to come from, we still don't know that, and a copy of the resolution approving the funding, as well as any communications between the parties after the public disclosure of the audit. Now, we only know about this audit because Ms. Driver was asked about it on the stand at the CON. At the last meeting, the mayor addressed it finally after months of me asking. Today, we got a little bit of a snapshot of what the 40-page report will look like. We still don't know, and I guess I could ask you guys how this is being paid for and who's paying for it and how much it's going to cost. But the residents of Hoover deserve better. They deserve answers. So to my public records requests, which I submitted, I was able to pick up, I paid, I think, $23 and some change for this lovely letter that tells me there's essentially no information. They gave me a budget, which does not address the Kroll audit, which is what I was asking about, and they gave me a resolution that also does not ask. So I'd like $23 back. Maybe, Mayor, you can take me to lunch. This is not and should not be acceptable to the residents of Hoover. Residents of Hoover should get information in a timely manner. I should get information. One of the emails that I know could have been produced was from one council member to the other council members. That email is not protected or privileged. That was all I had to say to you tonight. I look forward, as do I'm sure many of the residents, to get more answers on this audit. And I hope that when it is released at the end of the week, the entirety of the audit will be put online.
Any other comments tonight?
I do, Mr. President. Just something quick. I was raised by my grandparents, so it taught me I don't throw a rock and hide my hand. I know there was a comment made that privately speaking about another council person. If I have something to say to you, I'll say it to you directly. And I don't handle myself in that nature to talk about any council person behind their back. I don't think anybody can quote me doing that. I'll just rather talk to you face to face than even call you on the phone. So that was not referring to me. Maybe someone else, but not Derrick Maurice Murphy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Any other comments tonight? Very good. Thank you for your attendance. We're adjourned.